Hi, good morning. It is crochet time, and as you can see, I've added a little bit more to my backdrop now. That is my bunting that I finally made. A few other bits to do yet, but that side of the room is still an absolute tip. But this side is starting to look quite nice. I'm waving this around. This is what we're going to be doing today. Can you see him? I'll turn it sideways. Ta-da! Obviously, when I do the thumbnail, you'll see properly what the actual item is. Now, to me, this is my little guinea pig. Although when I showed it my daughter, she went, oh, is it a little dog? I think it's a guinea pig. I like him as a guinea pig. Obviously, if you have your own guinea pig, you could change the colours. You could match them up. You don't have to put the little eye bit on and things like that. He is, yes, you guessed it, a cream egg cover. But I have bought another egg. It's actually a lint one that I bought because that's one of my favourites, to see how it fits, because there's so many different brands. I've seen Oreo ones, obviously there's caramel. Not everybody likes a cream egg. I know in my house it's very divided. It's either love or hate where cream eggs are concerned. So I have to get different ones. There's obviously the particular store brand ones. There's so many. So I just got the one. Bit of an excuse really, because I fancied a lint egg, but we'll see how it fits. It seems to be a slightly longer, thinner egg, but not much, so I think it should work out okay. So we're going to make this little guy. It's really quick and easy. It's slightly different direction to some of the others I've done, because as you can see, we're sort of sliding the egg in there. So this is my little crochet cream egg cover guinea pig. Now, the amount of times I've tried to say guinea pig and got it back to front, this is the third time I've tried filming this, but there you go. So we're going to go top down, have a go at this little guy. I think you'll find it quite easy. Don't forget, I am using UK terms, so you may need a conversion chart if you're not used to them. So I will see you in a moment, top down. And we're going to make this little tasty treat, so I'll see you in a second. Hi, here we are with my little guinea pig. I thought he was quite cute. I was quite pleased the way he came out. He was a bit of an accident, as I say, because I was trying to make something else and then suddenly he appeared, and that is what we got. So I'm quite pleased with him. I think you can make loads of them in lots of different colours. If you've got a bit of fluffy yarn, you could add a bit of fluffy yarn. That'd be really cute. Now, I mentioned I was going to try a different egg, because this is a cream egg. As you know, a cream egg are the main ones I do. But I love cream eggs, but I also love the Lindor eggs. So I thought, well, let's see, because not everybody wants these. And if you're making them as a gift, I know these, the Oreo, the caramel, the Reese's, I think there's a couple of others are all this size, but then the odd one sort of throws you and it's a different shape. So let's see how it fits. It's a little bit thinner, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to fill our little egg. So with these, when they're at the bottom, I always go for sort of nose first and then push it in. That's okay, isn't it? Yeah, that's great, because I know my family are very divided between the cream egg. I know I mentioned before, there's a group that absolutely love them, partly me. And then the other side think they're the most disgusting things ever known to man. So it's nice to be able to know you can put an alternative in, and not many people are going to turn down a Lindor egg. So I'm quite pleased with that. So as you can see, this is where the actual egg goes. So we'll pop them both to one side. That's me and a cup of tea in a while, but not until I've done the videos. I've got to get these done. These are double knit yarns. These are the colours I chose. But as I mentioned, if you've got your own guinea pig, or your friend's got a guinea pig or something like that, you could sort of alter it round, because this bit was added on. These could be different colours. The ears could be different colours, because sometimes they have different colour ears, like a lot of animals do. So you could really mix it up, and I think it'd be really, really cute to do that. And it personalises it and makes it nice as a gift. Double knit yarn, 3mm crochet hook. Look, my poor hands are very dry, so please excuse that. So 3mm crochet hook. I have some little tiny beads. Now, these are for the eyes. If this is going to be a gift for a child, I do not recommend beads. I recommend you would do some sort of French knot, or you do a little bit of stitching, just a couple of sort of over stitches in some sort of thick, in a black yarn to make it stand out, something like that. Again, for the mouth, can be just used a black yarn. This is a little bit of crochet cotton. I do think it gives us sort of a nicer detail. I find if you use an embroidery thread, it splits, whereas with the actual cotton, it doesn't split. So that is why I've used that. Obviously, scissors, needles, etc., etc. So let's just get going. Let's do another little guinea pig. So I'm going to start with the cream, because I'm going to make him a matching pair. Now I'm just looking at the camera whether it needs to be a little bit further out, or I think we're okay here. Right, so slip knot time is predominantly amigurumi. All this here is amigurumi, but then when you get to this part, these are rows, so you're going to be going backwards and forwards because that is what is going to create the hole there. So let's get on with this, shall we? So slip knot on, not too tight on the hook. I've got such a messy table at the moment. I'm trying to catch in everything. You'll have seen, as I mentioned before, the backdrop behind me now. I've got all that tidied. I've got it decorated, my new shelves, things like that. But the rest of the room is just the biggest disaster zone known to man. But it's going to get there. I've got another shelf put up now to sort of move some of the dolls, but everything's just piled on the floor. So it's driving me mad. So we're going to do 6 in a set. Well, we're not going to do 6. We're going to do 2 chain. I always start my amigurumi with 2 chain, but then we are going to do 6 double crochets into that first one. So here we go. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, or not, it fell off the hook. There we go, back on the hook. I'm just going to tighten that bit up. We're now going to do 2 double crochets in each of these, just a very sort of traditional way of increasing for the amigurumi. So into that first one and 2 double crochets into number 1, 2 in number 2, 2 in number 3, in number 4, number 5, and our last one for 2, number 6. We now have 12 stitches. I'm just tightening that up again because that's his nose, so you need to make sure that's not going to come undone. You don't want suddenly want a hole where his nose is going to go. So if your work's sort of not tight enough, you might need to sort of thread that and sort of really go for it and make sure it doesn't open up. So we have 12 stitches now. We're going to have another increase. We're going to do 2 stitches in the first one and then 1 in each of the next 3, and you do that 3 times, and that's going to give us 15 stitches. So we have 2 in our first one and then 1 in each of the next 3. So we have 1, 2 and 3. That's set number 1. We're going to do that again. So 2 in the first one and then 1 in each of the next 3. 1, 2 and 3. Last set, 2 in the first one and 1 in each of the next 3. 1, 2 and 3. You can feel it starting to curve around, so push it back a little bit, makes it easier for yourself. I hope you can't hear my stomach rumbling. I've got a bit of a funny morning. It is my granddaughter's birthday, so we're rushing to get things done while she's at school, but I'm trying to do the videos as well, so I've not had breakfast yet, so I'm absolutely famished, but I will be having that egg in a bit, won't I? So perhaps I shouldn't have the breakfast. Perhaps I should have the breakfast and not the egg. That's not going to happen. We have another increased row. We're going round even. We're going to do 2 in the first one and then 1, 2, 3 and 4 this time. And you're going to repeat that 3 times. It gives you 18 stitches. So 2 in this first one. Then we have 1, 2, 3 and 4. If it's getting in your way, just keep uncurling it. 2 in the next one, then 4 single ones. No, I should say individual. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Our last set, we have a 2, we have a 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we now have 18 stitches. Keep pushing it round. The next round is going to be just 1 double crochet in each one. I'm not going to put a stitch marker in because in a second we're going to go on to rows and you're not going to need a stitch marker for that, but we are going to have to count 18. You do need to make sure you've got 18 stitches here. So here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, we're nearly there, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. push it back out. So you can see we have the little nose shaped there now. Now we're still going to stay with this colour for a second. You're going to do the 18 stitches again, but we're going to, at the end of it, we're going to be turning our work. So it's not just around. So we're going to count 18, and just bear with me on this one and sort of watch what I do. You might be watching it and then going on with your own, unless you know what this actual stage is. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Just 8 more to go. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Now this is where we're going to stop, and we're going to be starting to turn our work. So because we're going to turn, we're going to do 1 chain. Now when people write patterns, I know they always put 1 chain on the next row. I like to do my 1 chain before I turn, but it is technically the next row. Then I'm going to turn my work. So it looks like I'm working from the inside, and I'm going to be doing 18 stitches again. Now the first one is this hole directly below. Make sure this is nice and tight, because otherwise it does make it a bit loose later. So straight into that one first, and we'll count our 18, but you'll know when you get to 18 because of the gap here. Off we go. So it feels a bit weird when, if you're used to just going round and round with amigurumi, you suddenly change to rows. That's why so many times I'll say rows for rounds and rounds for rows, etc, etc. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. Right, we're nearly there. Like I say, you'll see you there because of the actual gap. Move that a little bit out of the way. You can see. Oh, you can see there, that's the first one. So this is our last one. There you go. So that is our first row. Now I'm going to stay, I think, on the same colour again, and I'm going to do 2 rows. But this is where you can start to mix and match your colourings, because we're going to be doing 9 rows in total. Now that doesn't include the one we've just done. Again, watch your tension. Keep trying it on your egg, because you might find, if your tension is a little bit looser, you might need a row less perhaps here. If your work's very tight, you might need a row extra. So you do need to keep trying it on that egg. Sometimes it is trial and error, unfortunately. Everybody's tension's different. Everybody's yarn is different. Even though it's a double knit yarn, it can still be different in thickness. So do watch for that. And it is important for your first one, at least, to keep checking. Then you can modify your pattern, and then you know where you're going from there. So I'm actually going to do 2 more rows in this beigey colour. So I do a turn, a row, well, a chain, should I say, a turning chain, then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to go all the way around. As I said, I don't need a stitch marker because I can see where it is. Now the only thing I would say, if you are adding on rows, it can make the end bit a little difficult, because I need to end on an odd number to make that very last bit over his bottom easier, because otherwise you're working from the inside, which is a bit of a pain, to be honest. But you can do it. I have done it because I did it when I was practicing making the size. So this is our row 1 in this colour. I'm wanting 2 rows in this colour. So I do a chain, I turn my work, make sure this is nice and tight, and off I go again. So this is my last row in this colour. I think after you've done your first one, you could just do it in one single colour. It doesn't even have to be a colour change. But there are 9 rows in total. So this is 2 of those 9. As I say, might be worth watching the video before you get started, or just sort of fast forwarding and keep checking certain areas to make sure you know what you're doing. I know myself, I've just been I've started building the Disney Parkworks house, and this week's there's so much detail. I've had to sort of pause the video because I let something dry before I can go back to it to do the next section. There's quite a lot to do, so it is worth checking your instructions, even though I know I'm bad at reading them. So that is it for that one, because I'm going to change colour. Now I'm just going to fasten it off. You change your colour however you want. Everybody has different ways of doing it. I personally just like to fasten off and get going with next colour. I could add it into that, but I'm not. I'm just going to fasten it off for now. So let's have a look. If I can find the end of this one, that is, it's got to be there somewhere. There it is. So it's just like a sort of a minky type colour that I'm using now. And I'm just going to go into that first stitch. And we're now going to do 5 rows in this one. So it's this little bit here. So I'm doing 5 rows before I change on to the next one. Oh, it's been one of those days. I'm just looking, my phone's now saying that the battery's low. We might still get it done. Otherwise, I'll be doing this one in 2 halves as well. So it's just 1 double crochet into each of those 18. And you're going to do that 5 times if you're doing the same colorways as myself. It is a quick one to do, not when you get a knot, mind. Just got a knot in my wool. I'm not too bad with knots, but they are very infuriating when you're trying to get on with something. It's not playing. No, that wasn't a joke. Ah, da-da, there we go. That was all right. It wasn't as bad as I thought. So this is row 1. I'm trying to make myself really say row to make sure I know where I am. So this is row 1, and I could do with a pen. I have one looking at me. Well, it's actually a pencil, and I'm going to mark that off as my row 1. Do a chain, turn, and another row. So this is our second row. Little bit of sewing in when you're changing colours all the time. That's the only pain. But it is worth it. It just gives that little bit something extra, doesn't it? If you have a guinea pig that's all white, you could just do a white one. You could, as I say, use the fluffy yarns a little bit more difficult when you're crocheting, or you can use a technique where you can actually sort of brush this yarn up. I've never actually done it myself. I've always been a bit sort of nervous about damaging the yarn, but I think it's basically like a little tiny dog pet brush or something, and they sort of brush at the yarn, it makes it fluffier. So that's our second one. Chain and turn, and another row. You could do a little sort of tuft on top of its head, because I know some have these funny little tufts on them. They're very cute guinea pigs. We've actually got rabbits, but we got the rabbits because they were rescue rabbits, but I'd always said it probably would have been a guinea pig I would have chosen, sort of out of choice, because I like the funny little noises they make and things like that. I think they really are cute. Although our rabbits we've had now for 8 years and they're lovely, but I think guinea pigs are cuter. I shouldn't say that, the rabbits can't hear me, so we're okay. Right, that was row 3. Chain and turn for our row 4. You can see it's going quite quickly, isn't it? And when you get used to the pattern, you'll probably, if you're making lots for gifts and things, you'll get them done really quickly then. It's curling round, which is a bit annoying. You have to keep flattening it out, but that'll be okay. I'm going to have twin guinea pigs when I've done this one, because they're both going to be the same. I was planning on doing some different ones, different colours and different sort of designs. There we go. So that is row 4. Chain and turn. This is our last row if you're doing the same colourways as myself. So this is row 5. We're going to change colour at the end of this one. I'm just trying to read my own pattern while I'm doing it. What am I doing there? Yes, I can see what I've done. Last couple of stitches. Last one. So again, either pick the yarn up or fasten it off, or however. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll pick mine up this time. There's different ways of doing it. It doesn't really make any difference what we're doing. So if you want to pick the yarn up, you would pull it through, tighten it up, You do need to make sure you tie your ends off though. If you do that, those two need to be tied off before you do anything else. We're going to turn and we're going to do another row, but in the sort of creamy beigey colour now. And we're doing 2 rows of these. And then we're going to be going back into doing rounds, because we're just going to go the little bit round his bottom. And so we've not got many more rounds to do really. The ears are quite simple. The little circle patch on the eye, again, it is optional, but will only take you minutes, as you will see when we get there. I think sometimes it's just the sewing up. Right, chain and turn. Now this is why I want to be on this row, because I'm going to be joining it together at the end of this row. So if you're on the inside of your work, it makes it sort of awkward to do it. It's not impossible, but it does make it awkward. And this is why I sort of landed, this is my 9th row, so I've landed on an odd number to be able to join it up together. So be aware of that if you do have to make it larger or smaller. Again, depending on your yarn. It's amazing how different these double knit yarns are. It drives me mad sometimes. Mind you, 4-ply can be as bad. You sort of buy one brand and it's really thick, and another brand it's really thin, and it's like, oh, how am I supposed to ever get my tension properly? Right, one more stitch there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull round. So this is where I started, this is where I ended, and I want to join these two together. So I'm going to go in the top of that stitch and pull a little bit more yarn out there, pull it through and make it a double crochet, tighten it up. So now we have sort of like this little ring again, and we're going to work on the little ring, and we're going to be shortening that down. Now the first one is just going to be a double crochet round, so around we go. It just sort of anchors it into place a little bit more by doing that double crochet round. Now our last round, I'm going to call it our last round, it's a continual decrease basically. So it's sort of maybe written as one round, but how I would write it in a pattern, I would say two double crochets together until closed. So I'm round now, so I'm just going to do 2 together, 2 together, 2 together, 2 together until this hole has closed up. It will close up really quickly, but you do need to keep your tension tight here, otherwise you end up with little holes. So 2 together, let me start again, pull it through, don't finish the stitch, go into the next one, pull it through. We should have 3 on the hook, and we pull it through, but tighten it afterwards. So in, pull it through, in, pull it through, 3 on the hook, pull it through all 3, tighten. And that is what we're going to keep doing. That tightening bit is important. It can make the stitches on the next bit a little bit tight, but it makes your work neater, so you do need to do it. Tighten. Tighten. As the hole gets smaller, it does get harder to hold. I think it's probably one of my least favourite things is decreasing, but it is really important you get it neat. You don't want to have done everything else beautifully, and then when you come to decrease, you spoil it by sort of leaving big gaps. So just tighten, especially if it's an item you've got to stuff. I mean, we're not stuffing this, but if it was something you've got to stuff, your stuffing shows through then. So just keep tightening it up. It's going to get more difficult to get through. I think this is probably the hardest bit, just the decreasing. But we're almost there. So what we've got left, can you see? We've got a little tiny bit of a hole left, so I think we've got a couple more stitches, maybe only one, and a slip stitch. We will look. Tighten. I think that will do me, so I'm just going to do a slip stitch there to fasten it off. If there is a tiny hole when you sew this in, you can always darn that over, so it's not too bad. So we have our little guinea pig body. Now, if you really wanted to, you could have just carried on going round and round and you can just make a little guinea pig. So we'll use the Lindor egg just out of curiosity and pop it in. Now with all yarn it does stretch, so if it's a bit tight it doesn't matter. So just give it a sort of fidget round, sort of squish it round in to make sure it fits, and I'm quite happy with that. Now I then actually ran a double crochet around the bottom to neat it off, and also it gives a little bit of stability for your guinea pig. I mean, he stands like that quite nicely. So we do have a few ends to sew in, I am afraid. That is why, you know, I did that one where I fastened, that's not the wrong side, isn't it? I did one where I just fastened off, that one. And then, in fact, no, it is on the other side, isn't it? But you got two options. They're the one that didn't fasten off, so now I'm going to have to tie a knot because I don't want it coming undone. So I'm going to turn him inside out. I think that's probably the easiest way of doing it. So I'm turning him inside out, and we need to get rid of these spare ends. You can get away with these top and bottom ones for now, but these four here you do need to get rid of. So where's my needle? There we go. In fact, I'm not sure that's the right one, but it will do for now. I do like certain needles for sewing up. This one's got a slightly small eye on it. So all I'm going to do for the sewing up is I'm going to run it along. So I'm going to take it up and then I'm going to bring it back down. You might want to do that a couple of times. I think that too is enough. But if, depending on if you're worried about your work coming undone, I know I sometimes do get a bit sort of stressy about that. So that is the brown bit there, the minky colour. Now we'll get the beigey colour out of the way. Yeah, I think the eye's a bit small on this one, so I'm having a bit of a fight. Yay, we did it. So again, I'm just going to do the same. I'm just going to run it up so it's sort of just picking up. It's not going through the other side. It's just picking up that top part of the yarn. Don't pull it tight. That pulled tight, can you see? So just stretch it back down again. And down the other side. My needles and my scissors are magnetised because of the stitch minder, so everything sticks to itself. Right, we have one more little set this side. So we'll go with the minky colour first. It doesn't really matter, you can do it in any order you want. Just need to get it out of the way so as we can run those DC's double crochets around the base. Again, don't pull too tight. I pulled a bit tight then, so all you've got to do is stretch it back like that. Down the other side. I really should have picked a larger needle. It would have helped. Well, a larger eyed needle, but it's doing its job. So again, up a little bit, down a little bit. Now, if you want, while you're at it, you could get rid of these ends. I suppose I ought to. It's a job done, but I can also skive a bit with that. But I do want to get rid of this one out of the way. So it's just going to pull to... Because when you finish off, it's on the right side, isn't it? So it's like in there. But I need it on the wrong side, so I'm just going to push it through to the wrong side. And then we're going to just look at picking up these double crochets around here. Now I picked it up in the beige. It doesn't really matter, you could do it in the darker colour if you wished, or whatever colour you're working on. Or perhaps, I mean, I say about not working with the fluff, that might be a nice time to do a fluff and sort of make it look like it's got fluffy ankles. So this is the wrong side, we need it back to the right side. I'm just going to push those in. I'd recommend you do sew them in before you get to this bit, but for now, for speed, I'm just moving them out of the way. So we need to pick up a double crochet all the way around. I'm going to start here. I either start at the back or the front. I think the back's the best one. I'm going to pull my yarn through. I'm going to do a chain. And then I'm going to double crochet back into the same stitch. Yeah. Now, if you want to, you run your yarn along and pick it up as you go, or sew it in after, entirely up to you. I'm going to pick it up as I go. You just have to be careful on making sure you are picking it up on every stitch. And I'm just picking up these stitches all the way around. As I say, I'm just lining up the other piece of yarn behind it so I can sort of crochet that in at the same time. Just saves you sewing it in at the end. A little bit fiddly to get round the corners, but just take your time. Just sort of pause me, you do your sort of little bit of double crochet around it. Now I'm at the end of where that yarn was, so I'm just going to snip that off. Be careful you don't snip the bit off you're using. I've done that so many times. And carry on round. This tightens it up as well as giving it a little bit of stability, so the egg isn't likely to fall out. I mean, it wouldn't anyway, I don't think, but it just gives it a little bit more solidity. So it's just double crochet all the way around. We're almost there. 2 more stitches. 1 more stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch into my first one. And I've done. So that is his body finished. That was quite quick. I'm quite sort of happy with that. So it's got his little body. He sort of stands nicely now. We need some ears. Now, again, I've used the contrast colour, and these couldn't be any quicker if we tried. So slip stitch and onto the hook. Now we're going to do 2 chain, but then we're going to do 3 double crochets into that first chain. Just 3. 1, 2 and 3. And now we're actually going to work in rows. So I'm going to do a chain, and I'm going to turn the work over. I do the first double crochets directly below that chain. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3, because we've done 3, haven't we, before? Then we're going to do a chain. We're going to turn directly below double crochet, and then 2 and 3. So just doing 3 double crochets, chain, turn, and again the same. 1, 2 and 3, and that's it. That's the ear. Make sure you leave enough here for actual sewing on. So that's the end that's going to be sewing onto the body. So we need to get rid of this one. Now let's grab that needle again. This is the better one, actually, I've grabbed this time. Now there is a slight right and wrong side. It's not overly obvious, but usually this sort of where it sits flat there is your right side. So this is the right side. So I'm just going to turn it over, and I'm going to stitch in this end. So I'm just going to run it backwards and forwards until I'm happy it's not going to come out, because this one is likely to come undone if you do not stitch it enough. Don't pull it too tight. You don't want to alter the shape of the ear. Now, if you ever did see that little lump there, I don't like that, so I'm actually going to pick it up that way, and it will flatten it off. You can actually manipulate the shape of your crochet quite nicely when you sew ends in. And then last time along that one, and I think that should be sewn in enough. I don't think that's going anywhere now. Snip, snip. And that's the little ear. So obviously we need 2 ears. I'm not going to do 2 ears at the moment. I'm just going to show you. I basically stitched it on approximately where the line was. So that's the sort of ear shape. And then what happens, it just sort of folds over. You can fold it over. If you want to hold it in place, you can just do a little stitch into place. But essentially I found it just folded over on its own anyway. So we need 2 little ears. We now need the little eye sort of circle, if we want to call it, a little surround around his eye. And all that is slip knot. It's just a first part of your amigurumi. Couldn't be any simpler. Let me move that needle before I lose it. So we have our 2 chain, and you're going to do 6 double crochets into that first chain. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then we're just going to slip stitch into that first one, and you've done. Again, couldn't be any quicker. You could make a larger one if you wanted to, but I thought that was about the right sort of size in there. So we have 2 strands again. I'm going to use this one for sewing on. This is the one I need to get rid of. I've got both needles out now, haven't I? Let me put them on there. So this central one I want to get rid of, because the outer one is the one you're going to stitch in with. So I'm just going to run it around a couple of times. Try not to make it too chunky for sewing on for the other part. Just a couple of times. That will do me, actually. And we're going to fasten that off. and that part's done as well. Look how simple that was. So that's the little eye bit. What I found is these are the beads that I used. Now, I haven't got a clue what size they are. I hope you're going to be able to tell just by me holding them. Running away. But as I mentioned, if you're making this for a child, I do not recommend beads at all. Apart from the fact they could lose them, but you don't want them putting in the mouth and swallowing them or something like that. It's amazing what children will do. I know that from my own and from my grandchildren. So you do have to be careful. Now, these, if you are using them, you can sort of see, I don't know, sort of size compared with my crochet hook. If you think the crochet hook's a 3mm, I think these are, I don't know, I'm going to say 6, but I think that might be a bit big. I have got a ruler. I can reach across for it. There's my ruler. And maybe 4. Because look, you can see they're slightly different. I think that's about a 4mm bead there. Now, these are great. I use these all the time for my stuff, I say, unless it is for a small child. And basically, stitch all your details on, and then the little eye. Obviously, you've got one to sit inside there and then one stitched in. Now, I just used a normal sewing thread for that. You can actually, I'll show you the inside. You can see where I've stitched them on. Make sure they are stitched on nice and firm. And again, the same with this. You can create whatever sort of feature you want. You could just do a little V. I think the nose I've done is actually what's made it look more like a dog. I had considered just sort of stitching across, but again, bit of embroidery thread, bit of felt. If you've not got anything like that, you could sort of stick a little bit of felt on, whichever sort of you decide. I think that is where it becomes personal, the decoration. So what I'm basically giving you is a basic shape, and then hopefully your own creativity will sort of flow from there. So I will have twins here when I have finished them. He needs another ear, of course, bless him, and a little eye. I might put the eye on the other side for this one. There's a bead about to roll. There we go. It's just dropped on the dog's bed. I'll have to get that. The bead's just rolled off the table. But that is it. That is our little guinea pig. Now I'll put the cream egg, I think, back in, because I say I'm going to acquire this one for my coffee or tea. I don't know what I'm going to have yet. So I'm going to be eating that one. But there we go. Our little Easter treat. I think it's great. It's a bit of fun. I'm sure the kids will love it. I'm sure the adults will love it, especially if they are guinea pig owners. I think that is going to be really cool. I've got to go and take some photos of him yet. So that might be a bit of fun. Oh, he's rolling away. He's trying to get away. They are cheeky, these little guinea pigs. So I hope you pop some comments on there. Tell me if you've made them. Tell me if you have any problems, and I will try and resolve them. I do try and make sure it's sort of easy for people to understand. But if there's something you're not sure about, just give me a shout and I'll do my best to sort of answer it. But let me know if you have made some, if you have enjoyed it, and if you do like my crochet videos or any of my other videos that I do, please like, subscribe and share, and I will see you all very soon. I've got some more Easter ideas coming up, so I will see you soon. Bye bye for now.